If you have problems with embracing your imperfections, accepting vulnerabilities, and dealing with shame, then this book, Daring Greatly by Brené Brown, can be extremely helpful. This book is about vulnerability and shame that is based on the data collected by the author while interviewing more than 1200 people and coding case studies, case notes, journals, and letters. The author researched about shame and vulnerability for more than 12 years and it helped her collect useful data and draw valuable conclusions. Hello everyone, my name is Saurav and I welcome you to Exports, and in this video I would share with you 5 lessons from the book Daring Greatly that I found extremely valuable. So let's get started. The first lesson is vulnerability is not a weakness. We have this common myth vulnerability is a weakness. When we ask for help, we are vulnerable. It feels uncomfortable and we think it's our weakness. When we propose our crush, we are vulnerable and it seems like our weakness. When we have to deliver a speech in front of thousands, we feel vulnerable because anyone can laugh at us and we think it's our weakness. Brené Brown defines vulnerability as facing uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. Different people feel vulnerable in different situations. For example, vulnerability can be getting fired from your job, vulnerability can be proposing a girl or boy and she or he rejects, vulnerability can be starting a business, vulnerability can be uploading your videos on YouTube, vulnerability can be showing your art to the world, vulnerability can be giving a speech in front of thousands, vulnerability can be losing your loved ones, vulnerability can be asking for help, and so on. But do these situations make you look like you are weak? Let's take an example. If you start a business, you are vulnerable because you take risks even when your success is uncertain. Anything can happen anytime and you may have to close your business. But does it look like your weakness? Of course not. In fact, it looks like you are courageous. When you upload your videos on YouTube, you are vulnerable because you expose yourself to the world. You are taking risks. Anyone can comment anything like abuses about your looks or opinions. Anyone can laugh at you and make memes. You are vulnerable. But does it look like your weakness? No, again, it looks like you are courageous. Similarly, when you are showing your art to the world or you are asking for help or your crush rejects your proposal, you are vulnerable and it's painful, but it's not your weakness. Because you are brave enough to do what you wanted to do and face reality. Hence, the first lesson is facing vulnerability is not a weakness, it's courage. The second lesson is embrace vulnerability. Since we believe vulnerability is a bad thing, a sign of weakness, we tend to avoid it by all means. Avoiding vulnerability is like carrying a shield which helps us protect ourselves from shame, fear, guilt, and we do all this unintentionally. Whenever anything makes us vulnerable, we would avoid it. If we feel vulnerable speaking in front of thousands, we would use the shield and avoid public speaking. Here, the shield protects us from criticism, getting laughed at, and shame. The shield becomes our constant companion, but with time, it gets heavier and heavier and becomes uncomfortable to carry. The shield gives us safety, but we rarely feel alive. Brené Brown lists many vulnerability shields in the book that we use to avoid vulnerability. Out of them, the three most common are avoiding joy. When we feel tremendous joy, like getting a high paying job, falling in love, or having any celebration, we tend to avoid the joy because we believe if we become too happy, we would attract disasters. Whenever everything goes right in our lives, we become afraid of something terrible which may happen, like car accidents, losing our job, or even a plane crash. So we stop being very happy because it makes us vulnerable. The second vulnerability shield is perfection. Yes, perfectionism is a vulnerability shield that we use to protect ourselves from shame and criticism. Trying to be perfect is not self improvement, but it's a way to earn praise and appreciation from others. In addition, trying to be perfect can take all the fun and adventure of life. The third vulnerability shield is numbing. This is the third most common vulnerability shield, which most people do by smoking, using drugs, and drinking alcohol. When people feel vulnerable and shame, they numb their feelings. Well, this may look attractive in the short run, but numbing also kills happiness and welcomes depression. So, these three common shields may protect us from vulnerability, but they rarely let us leave because vulnerability and happiness are like two sides of the same coin. When you avoid vulnerability, you avoid happiness and good things like love, peace, growth, or fulfillment. And you can't completely avoid vulnerability because life is full of vulnerabilities, and every good thing will make you vulnerable. Just like more rewards come from more risks, more happiness and growth come from more vulnerability. Being vulnerable helps us being fully alive. Hence, the second lesson is embrace vulnerability. The third lesson is we all feel same. Brené Brown defines shame as an intensely painful feeling that we experience when we believe that we are flawed. And shame is one of the most powerful emotions that control our lives. All of us feel shame, which may vary from person to person. Some feel shame because of their body weight, some because of low bank balance, some because of their past mistakes, and some feel shame when they score fewer marks in exams. The author says that we all experience shame, but we don't want to talk about it, and the lesser we talk about shame, the greater the shame becomes. Men and women feel shame for different things. For women, the most common form of shame is when their bodies or looks are not attractive, whereas for men, the most common form of shame is showing fear, having no money, or being weak. Same has been driving our lives since our childhood. When a teacher asks a question in a class of 40, rarely would anybody answer. Students know the answer, even then they would choose to be silent. I know it because I have been that kind of a student who does not answer in the class. And it's because I feared same. I feared I may speak something stupid and people would judge me because of my answer. And it happens with most of the students, might have happened with you because same is universal. Many studies suggest that same is the greatest killer of creativity and innovation. It would not allow you to do anything different and take any risk. This is a highly dangerous feeling. So, what do we do about it? Well, this brings us to the fourth lesson. The fourth lesson is be same resilient. We saw that vulnerability allows us to live a more fulfilled life, but one of the greatest enemies of embracing vulnerability is shame. Shame becomes a fear. And how can you embrace vulnerability when you get affected by shame, judgment, and fear? So, the solution is you need to be shame resilient. How can you be shame resilient? Brené Brown says that sharing your shameful stories with your loved ones or those close to you would help you be shame resilient. When you share your shameful moments, shame gets diminished and you gain victory over it. In addition, you also need to treat yourself with respect and prevent cursing yourself. Understanding that we all make mistakes and it's okay to be criticized and judged also helps you overcome shame. I understood this very well because I have already experienced this. Once an incident happened to me in my coaching institute in which I was forced to go out of the class. Now, I'm not going to tell you why I was forced to go out, but yes, it was my mistake and I was feeling extreme shame. It was like physical pain and I was worried what other students would think, what faculty members would think and how they would treat me. But somehow I believe that it's okay and sometimes it happens. When I returned to my hostel, I talked about it with my roommate and we both laughed at it. Surprisingly, it took the same away. And whenever I felt same about that incident, I shared the story with a friend and joked about it. And this really works. Sharing your shameful stories with any closed one reduces the same. I didn't know at that time that I was practicing same resilience. Once you become same resilient, you won't have much problem accepting vulnerabilities. You would be pro at dealing with shame and criticism. You would see opportunities you had not seen before. So the fourth lesson is be same resilient. The fifth and the final lesson is dare greatly. The author mentions an excerpt from the Man in the Arena speech of Theodore Roosevelt at the very beginning of the book, which tells that a person who is in the arena and who is trying to do something, bravely making mistakes, trying again and again, and whose face is covered with dust, blood, and sweat, is greater than those who are just watching, judging, criticizing, and finding faults, because those who are in the arena understands that there is no achievement without mistakes and failure. They are putting efforts for a worthy cause, and they know that in the end, if they win, they will achieve what they wanted, and if they fail, at least they will fail while daring greatly. So, daring greatly means going into the arena again and again, feeling vulnerable and embracing uncertainty. The arena can be the stage for public speaking, showing your art to the world, launching your business, or opening up with your loved ones. However, walking into the arena does not guarantee your success, and being in the arena may not be that easy. You would feel uncomfortable and pain. You would be judged, criticized, and blamed. You would get hurt, and you may even think of running out of the arena. But being in the arena is the best you can do, because not doing it now, when it's the time, may attract regret at later times. And when you walk into the arena, you would realize that all these times you were living a limited life, afraid of the fear itself. This will make you stronger, and you would give your best and try to win the game. And even if you fail, as Theodore Roosevelt said, at least you would fail while daring greatly. So these were the 5 lessons from the book Daring Greatly by Brené Brown. If I talk about my own experiences, I really had some severe problems with shame. I used to get badly hurt by it, and it made me feel weak. I wouldn't talk to new people, I wouldn't go to parties, I wouldn't try anything new, and lived a highly limited life. But this book helped me understand what the problem was with me and what I have to do to solve it. I am solving my problems, and it makes me feel more and more alive every day. So I would recommend this book to everyone who wants to embrace imperfections, accept vulnerabilities, fight shame, be more alive, and live a fulfilling life. That's all. I hope you found it valuable. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel where I keep posting about fiction and non-fiction books. Thanks for staying with me. Meet you in the next video. Till then, bye bye and take care.